what the WGA negotiator told me was they kind of heard about this AI thing and they're like, oh, we just put one demand. And the producer's reaction to that demand, which was nothing, they got ghosted. They went, oh,
Disney is working on AI. So are the other studios. And today during this call, if y'all didn't catch it, somebody asked about how you're planning to save money if you're going to continue with these kinds of high-level projects. And Iger said, we're working with the studios right now on something. I don't want to talk about it yet, but we'll talk more about it in the future. I'm telling you, they've already got AI working full steam behind the scenes right now at Disney and most other studios. I don't think the strike is going anywhere for these actors and writers the way they hope it will,
right?
Because at this point, if Disney and all these studios are fully committed and have already invested in looking at AI, what on earth incentive do they have to sign an agreement to not use AI going forward? Thoughts?
Well, really, all they need is basically you need the same thing as you do in programming and developing, which is basically you need one AI to do the rough work, and then you need a human to make sure that that rough work actually makes sense. So basically what you need is like a human story editor, if you will, that can provide the AI with the directions, make sure it was done correctly, touch it up, boom, good to go. With an AI, one person can actually be a showrunner of a whole series with very limited extra writers. I agree with you. I'm not saying this is a good thing, but I do think it's very, very bad news for the writers that there'll be need for showrunners, because those showrunners will be managing AIs.
Yeah, you'll always need humans. You know what's interesting is thanks to Robert Meyer Burnett, I got to talk to one of the negotiators for the WGA, and he spoke directly about the AI issue. I'm like, well, how did this even come up, and why didn't it come up in the last time they made a deal? It's every 3 years they make a deal. They made a deal prior to COVID. They got a really sweetheart deal. And now we found out why, because they probably should have, they had a lot of opportunity to strike while everything was shut down, which could have still put pressure on Hollywood. And that would have probably helped the actors with the jab, all said and done there. But so when what the WGA negotiator told me was they kind of heard about this AI thing. This is the way he put it. And they're like, oh, we just put one demand. And the producer's reaction to that demand, which was nothing, they got ghosted. They went, oh, AI's already been started. Oh, crap. that's
okay, Gary. Okay.
They're saying they didn't see it. They knew it was coming, but they didn't think it was being implemented. And they found out essentially it's been implemented. They've been working on it for a long time, just like they worked streaming services. I had a friend who used to be a co-host on my channel back in the early days. He was working on Disney Plus in 2014. So and they were plucking people from Netflix. So they're ahead. They're way ahead.
So Gary, let me follow. This months ago, we were covering this idea that the strike is really about artificial intelligence. And one of the issues that came up was, why would they strike now versus any other time? And one of the answers I've heard from various different sources out there is that they had to strike now before the artificial intelligence was to the point that it was so embedded in the entertainment industry that they could no longer strike about it at all. What do you think about that the timeline collapsed around these unions and they had to strike over AI?
Yeah.
Sounds like a Terminator movie.
Yes, it does. It just, they were too late. It's already being implemented. The fact that Secret Invasion, it was an artistic choice, did AI credits during this strike was hilarious. I laughed my ass off when I went, oh, that's the worst taste, because comic artists and all the artists just freaking hate it. But that's part of it. The AI is definitely part of it. That is a huge part of this strike. But the other one is residuals. I mean, the WGA negotiator tried to downplay them, saying he's all, well, we're not too worried about the residuals. We want more up front. The reason they want more up front is because apparently the WGA is aware of the numbers. The lead negotiators, the head of the WGA, they can't share them, but they are aware of the numbers. And their response is, we're not worried about residuals. You want to know why? Because there's no residuals. There's no numbers. So they want more money up front.
That's
Poor
it.
Rachel Zegler.
Yeah.
Well, you know, that's been the big problem.
Standing in your dress for 18 hours.
That's been the big problem. Why, Gary, I think in another of our mutual friends, and I know Andre has heard this conversation before, as have the rest of the panelists here, with Script Doctor. And, you know, we've talked about, I'm in total agreement with him, is that the industry always will come full circle. And that means advertisers. We've talked about here before, you think about back in the day, you had your 3 networks. You had ABC, NBC, CBS, broadcast. That was it. You had advertising. Advertisers had to come in and make the shows work. That generated money, and that's what you could measure at the success of a show by, was sponsors. Then along came cable. You paid a fee. You didn't have ads. But it didn't take long for those advertisers to come in. Think, you know, CNN and all these kind of... You used to pay $20 for a cable package. You had no ads. Now you got ads. You didn't have ads that long after. Same thing's going to happen with streaming. If you want to be able to pay writers and actors and have residuals tied to actual production, revenue, pro forma performance, this kind of thing, you've got to have a traceable source of OI or operating income for a show to show that, oh, well, look, we sold $500 million of ads on this, you know, 2 or 3 series last year or whatever. Other streamers out there like Peacock and Paramount, I think, are in the catbird seat, as is Hulu, to be fair, because from the get-go, it was always an AVOD or SVOD-based system where you had advertising built in. Things like Netflix and Disney Plus, and Netflix especially, has a much higher hurdle to get over because people are used to that premium content. They're reluctant to go with ads. And even though, yeah, we can get them to pay higher and higher fees for Netflix Premium, they really need to get the advertisers in if this is ever going to get settled with the WGA.
You know what,
else.
Valiant, just to kind of tag on to what you've said, Hulu, way early, they were putting ads in. Like even when you hit pause to do something, you got an ad that came up. They were way, way, way ahead of it, to the point now where I'll never get the no commercials thing for Hulu.
I still have ad-based Hulu.
Yeah.
I'm fine with my wife devours ad-based Hulu more than anything now. That and like I think Max and Peacock, because of the shows they have on there. But I mean, it's all everything we have is ad-based.
Gives you a chance to check your phone instead of during the show.
Yeah, it's
right. And I'll keep saying this until
there'll be a point very soon, and I could not agree with you more. Like, hey, what outside of linear TV? What's the best platform for ad content? It's right here on YouTube, by the way, where people are used to it. You can get your premium, but it's becoming one of the go-to places for ad content. Just wanted to point that out. But pretty soon you're going to see like a Netflix show. They won't break for ads, but they'll be like, this series is sponsored by Pontiac or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Nice Pontiac reference.
Right.
Did you guys ever think, though, that
actually,
we'd be
you
in a
have
time?
that. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but actually, you have that already. It's called product placement.
Yes.
Well, but did you guys ever think that you would see a time when Disney would outright just say it in the earnings call? We're going to jack up the price on everything that's not ad-based because that's what we want you on.
Yeah. That's pretty much what they were indicating. They look at that. They referenced that that Netflix price point. They didn't quite say Netflix, but they talked about Netflix's size and Netflix's revenue and the fact that they're able to charge that and still keep customers and grow by 6 million subscribers in the last quarter. They have their eyes on that price point. I don't think that Disney Plus's content right now can sustain a Netflix price model because they can barely sustain it at the price they have right now.
Well, but Jonas, to your point there, that's the thing. With Disney, it's the opposite of a Kobayashi Maru. It's a no-lose situation because if they jack the price up on the premium and leave the ad tier alone, which is what they guided exactly what they were going to do, and that makes sense because to an extent, they want more people going down to that ad-based side. They need to be able to sell more ads, beat that up, because eventually they're going to raise the price on that too, just like they did to your cable subscriptions for the last 40 years. It's the same thing. They're going to put ads on it and charge you more. But if you stick around and you want to pay the higher premium for the service, fine. They'll take more money. But if you leave and drop down to ad-based, they win just the same.
Right, because they make more money off of those ad-supported people than they do off of the ad-free tiers that supposedly pay a premium.
Yeah,
I'll also
and
point out
Disney,
that great
Disney
situation.
can package sale those things real quick, Jonas. Disney can package sale that stuff like nobody else. Maybe Max, throw that in there. But Disney can package sale with linear broadcast, ESPN. Oh, hey, you want Hulu? Hey, how about that Disney Plus? Let's put a rider on your contract so you get some of that Disney Plus advertising too. They can tack it on. Netflix only has Netflix to sell. That's the big difference.
So yeah, today, by the way, I'm sure you guys know, but just in case anybody doesn't know in the chat, the WGA strike hit 100 days. The original strike in 2008 was over by now.
North America fell to its knees today, folks. They were sadness and grief, sackcloths everywhere.
What are we gonna do?
And the original strike had repercussions, which are felt to this day. And
you're right.
Yeah, and that was over by now. So imagine what this thing is going to have.
They haven't even talked.
Different Hollywood.
They can't even decide when to talk. So
the creatives don't have a winning hand here. So why would you go to the table? You don't have a card to play, and that's the thing I don't. I hate it for the average Joe or Jane in Hollywood. I hate it for them because they're out of work, they need to work, and they have no control over this. But I can't see any way in the world that they can win. They're making demands that are insane. It's like telling somebody that they're not allowed to use artificial intelligence in entertainment. It's sort of like telling UPS they can't drive trucks.
Right?
I mean, come on.
I mean, it's going to be. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole now, but it's going to be a tool. AI will be used as a tool. It will still need people. It'd be like Photoshop, like really advanced Photoshop or After Effects. That's what it's going to be. It's going to actually make probably effects cheaper down the road. Games will probably be done faster. Mm-hmm. I don't know better. I don't know about better, but things will be done quicker and a little cheaper because of this, because the CGI highway that Hollywood decided to dive in, because remember practical effects, remember those things back in the day? Practical effects became
in camera, what did they call it?
Yeah, it became too expensive, and it turns out CGI was 1,000 times more expensive.
Oh yeah. So I'm shocked every day by what I can do now in Lightroom, which I've done photography for years. I mean, what Photoshop can do now versus just 5 years ago. What Lightroom can do now versus 5 years ago. I mean, going in and masking out auto recognition of people now, and it's flawless. It is flawless. You can now perform tasks for photo editing in a matter of seconds that 5 years ago might have taken you 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah,
I mean, exactly. That's where the economies of scale are going to come in. And as you said, you're still going to have people. Of course you will, because you're going to have somebody there that's going to have eyeballs on it, manipulating what you want to have happen. But the AI is so sophisticated that I don't need to spend $50 million on VFX to have a team of 50 people working on a bunch of Mac Studios for hours and hours and days and weeks and months on end. That same task can now be accomplished for a tiny fraction of that cost, because I don't need that many people and I don't need to spend that much time to do it. You just need to have the machines that can do it.
And a plan. And a plan. We talked to the visual effects guy for Dune at Comic-Con, just ran into him on the floor and said hi, and he watched our channel, and Chris Gore asked him, like, how in the hell did Dune cost $120 million to make? How did you even do that? And it was like this really huge, crazy answer. We planned previs. In other words, the director had the shots in mind. They planned them ahead of time, and they worked on them while they were working on the film. Then the shots were ready after they worked on the film. Crazy plan to have a plan. And so it's $120 million, and now Dune doesn't have to do $1 billion. To make its money back.
So what you're saying is
that the Marvel way of doing things the Pixar way of remaking the movie over and over again isn't so great in live action?
It's not. It turns out it's not.
That you stole my joke, Andre. I was about to say, so the Victoria Alonso method of production doesn't work.
No,
it's perfect.
Pixar, because that's a Pixar way. And this is actually what happened with John Carter back in 2010, 2011. The problem there was that Andrew Stanton, and for those that still suffer the delusion that Disney somehow mucked with that movie, no. The problem with that movie was 100% Andrew Stanton and no one else. You wanted to change Hollywood. You wanted to be Victoria Alonso before Victoria Alonso was Victoria Alonso. by doing it the Pixar way and just remaking the movie over and over again until they got it right, because that's what they did in Pixar. But Pixar did that in Previs.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, Icarus flew too close to the sun. I like that movie, though. I like that movie. I stand by it. Wish there was a 4K version.
Yeah.
Crazy thing is, Disney would love to have a John Carter today.
I know.
Because this box office has been, well, I mean, there's Indy. There's Indy.
Renegade.